let's talk a little bit about the Carnegie study and the findings from that study, about how you decided to launch that study. I mean, it was a huge multi-site national effort.
Right. Well,
the beginnings of that.
Lee Schulman, who was president of the Carnegie Foundation, launched a whole program of research on educating professionals, and the professions he chose to study were clergy, engineering, law, medicine, and nursing. And he worked very closely with Ann Colby, who is a developmental psychologist, and Bill Sullivan, who is a political scientist and a philosopher. And they were Bill's also could be called a sociologist. They were very interested in recovering civic professionalism. At the time of that launch of that study, which or program of research took 10 years, and at the time of the launch, there was a lot of problem with professional integrity, and we had the Enron scandal and Arthur D. Anderson accounting scandal, and so there was a great deal of interest in why the professions weren't holding up their side of ethics. And so they decided to really open up and explore and articulate the role of civic professionalism in professional formation. And this is what really interested me. I was invited to present a paper at the Carnegie Foundation and was interviewed there. And I found that my work really paralleled a lot of the work that Lee Schulman had done on wisdom and practical knowledge in education and teaching, both in medical education and in K through 12 teacher training, teacher education. So when I was invited to direct the study, I didn't know how I could incorporate that in what I was already doing, but I decided I would do it. It was a chance of a lifetime, and it was a great follow-on for me for having studied knowledge embedded in the practice of nursing. My research program had been really focused on clinical reasoning, skill acquisition, and knowledge embedded in nursing practice. So I was trying to articulate knowledge that we have in our practice but didn't have good language for. And so that was the precursor to the study of nursing education. And in our nursing education study, again, I tried to articulate the nature of teaching a domain-specific practice like nursing. And we, of course, discovered some wonderful master teachers. I like to tease them and call them positive deviants because they had solved some of the major practical problems in nursing education. We found a rather serious practice education gap in nursing, in that nursing education really hadn't kept up with the advances in practice. So one of our recommendations is to really upgrade the science and social sciences and humanities in undergraduate nursing education, but to do that in a very situated way that would integrate knowledge acquisition and knowledge use. We were particularly interested in how student nurses learn to think like a nurse, learn to engage in clinical reasoning, which is really an analog for practical reasoning, and how they came to have experiential learning that allowed them to recognize the nature of a clinical situation. So we came to see how important developing a sense of salience really is to, I think, any practitioner, but particularly to nurses who walk into multiple unstructured, underdetermined, open-ended situations. And so we found teachers who were very good at helping those novice first-year nursing students develop a sense of salience and come to help them, guide them in understanding the nature of the situation and then developing their own experiential learning. Another strength we found in nursing education was the kind of situated coaching that nurse educators do a really good job of. We were really impressed, more impressed with the clinical teaching, which surprised us. We thought, like all good nurse educators, that we need to do better in clinical education, but it's really the classroom that we found to be the weakest. And we came out recommending for a much more integrated classroom clinical educational experience on both sides, so that we bring the clinic into the classroom and the classroom into the clinic in a better way, because right now we found that they were radically separated. So the study came out in 2009. There's been a really very good response, robust response to the study. It is the first national study of nursing education in actually what is now going on 40 years since the Lysalt report. So I think it was overdue. There have been a lot of changes in technology and in nursing and medicine in the last 30 years, but nursing has been very, very busy doing important work in developing the science of nursing and developing the research program in nursing. And as we did that, we kind of neglected research on nursing education and also preparing our graduate students to teach. And so one of the goals of the study is to really reinvigorate nursing education and preparing all graduate students to be good stewards of the discipline by learning how to teach.